What's going on, everybody? Khalifa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G and going over whether or not this phone is a good phone to buy in 2022 and what kind of value it really provides. Now, before we go any further, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to learn more about this phone, be sure to check out my full review and tips and tricks videos for it as well. But with that being said, let's get started. So the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 407, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 84.1%. We got a hole punch up here for the front-facing camera, looks real nice and clean, and this camera is 32 megapixels. So definitely a real powerful front-facing camera if you want to take some nice selfies or something like that. Overall, I am really impressed by the display. We got some real nice vibrant colors here, a sharp and crisp image, and everything really looks good. In addition to this, the 120Hz display is definitely going to make things a little bit nicer, especially when you're consuming content. And in case you don't know what this does, it's going to make the movement on your screen a little bit faster and smoother. So when you're navigating through the phone, it's going to feel a little bit more premium. And when you're doing stuff like streaming videos, playing games, all that, you're going to get a nicer experience there as well. And another thing I really like about this display is the size. This may not be the biggest phone out there, but at 6.5 inches, it's definitely a good enough size to give you the benefits of having a larger display. So content consumption, even stuff like reading, is all going to be good on this phone. But at the same time, it's not so large that it's uncomfortable to hold in your hand or carry in your pocket. So it's a nice in-between, and in general, the phone itself has a nice slim design, so it's not too bulky either. This phone also has some pretty good viewing angles, so it's not going to be one of those phones where it gets super dim when you're outside or anything like that. Now for storage, this phone has 128 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so that's a real good amount. Now keep in mind there's another variant out there that has 256 gigabytes, but this specific phone in this video does have 128. Now again, 128 gigabytes of internal storage is definitely a good amount of storage, whether you're a power user or just a normal user. Nowadays with apps, the system, just data in general, everything getting larger and larger as time goes on, you really can't have too much storage. So even if you don't think you're going to need all 128 gigabytes, at least having this much storage is going to give you peace of mind knowing you won't run out of space. And if you're a power user, you'll be happy to know that you can put plenty of apps on here. And if you have lots of photos and videos and stuff like that, you can always offload it onto a microSD card as well. Now there is no wireless charging with this phone, but we do have a fingerprint scanner right here in the display. And this phone also has face unlock as well, so it's nice that we're getting two options to get into it. But let's go ahead and give this fingerprint scanner a try and see how well it works. So there we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see, real fast and responsive, no issues here. And again, it's really nice to see that we're getting face unlock too. Now taking a look at the camera setup here, we got a quad camera with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So aside from a telephoto lens that's typically only found in flagship phones anyway, this phone has pretty much every smartphone camera feature available. So that's definitely nice. It's got a lot of versatility, so if you like to take lots of photos, this is going to be a real good thing. And in addition to just having the features, the quality of the photos is also really high, so with this phone, you can expect to get some real nice looking, high quality photos. Now for video, this phone has a max quality of 4K in both the rear and front cameras, so that's another really nice benefit of the setup of this phone. Lots of phones around this general price range don't seem to have the ability to shoot 4K, and if they can, it's not always in both cameras. So I am happy to see that the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G can shoot 4K in both the rear and the front. So overall, if you want to take some nice pictures and shoot some high quality videos, then this phone is going to be a great option. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750G processor. Now keep in mind, there's also another version of this phone out there that has 8 gigabytes of RAM, but this specific phone in this video has 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now that being said, I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone, and it came back with a single core score of 647 and a multi-core score of 1939. So this is definitely a real powerful phone, and during all the time I've used it, I've never encountered any performance issues, and it handles higher end activities like gaming, even more graphics intensive gaming really well, and then video editing and stuff like that. It's gonna do that just fine. So really, there's not a whole lot this phone can't do. Sure, it's not exactly at the level of a flagship phone, like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, for example, but at the same time, there's really not gonna be a whole lot this phone just can't do. So if you're gonna be on your phone a lot, this phone is gonna be a good option because of this. Now, in addition to this, of course, as the name suggests, this phone does have 5G connectivity, and since 5G is really the future, this is definitely a nice thing. Now that's not to say that 4G is going away anytime soon, because it's not by a long shot, but as time goes on, the 5G network is just going to keep improving, so honestly, now is as good a time as any to get a 5G phone. But another thing I will say is that Geekbench 5 benchmark test scores don't really mean a whole lot by themselves without anything to compare them to. The only reason I know these scores in and of themselves off the top of my head are really good is because I've run this test on so many different phones. So what I would recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and comparing the scores to these to see if this phone would be an upgrade, because depending on what you have right now, it may or may not be. Now this phone has a 4500 milliamp hour battery that supports 25 watt fast charging, so definitely a good battery here. Now the battery life, while it's gonna be good for sure, may not be really amazing, just because this phone has a lot of things like the 120Hz display, Super AMOLED, really powerful processor, stuff like that could drain the battery pretty fast if you're heavily using the phone all the time. So just keep in mind that although this phone does have a really big battery that's gonna last for quite a while, it may not have quite the battery life of some lower end phones out there that have the same size battery. But another nice thing about this phone battery wise is the 25 watt fast charging. That's really fast. In fact, I charged this phone up from 40% right before this video, and it really didn't take that much time at all. So I know from experience that this phone does charge up really fast if you have the proper fast charger. So that's another great thing about this phone's battery to keep in mind. Now this phone does have NFC, so if you like to use contactless mobile payment services like Google Pay, then you'll be happy to know that you can do that with this phone. Another cool feature it has is dust and water resistance for up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. So while I definitely wouldn't recommend dropping this phone in a swimming pool or something like that, it's nice to know that you at least get a little bit more resistance and durability overall. Now yet another nice feature about this phone, this one more pertaining to content consumption, is that this phone does have stereo speakers. So when you're consuming content, whether you're watching a video, listening to music, whatever you're doing, sound is going to come out of both the speaker and the earpiece itself, giving you a much nicer, more premium experience. But now that we've gone over some of the specs and features of the phone, let's take a closer look at the device itself. So we got nothing on the left side here. On the bottom, we got a 3.5mm headphone jack, the microphone, a USB-C port, and the speaker. On the right side, we got the power key, volume down, volume up. On the top of the phone, we got the noise canceling microphone, and the slot for the SIM card and micro SD card. On the back, we got the camera setup, the flash, and some Samsung branding right down here. Now the back has this really nice looking matte finish that really doesn't pick up fingerprints at all. You can kind of see them in the right lighting, but unless you're looking for them, it's really unlikely that you're even going to notice. Now I do like the design. The bezels really aren't very thick, and again, it looks really nice, sleek, and modern. It's not too bulky. But I will say, for a phone that's really in the upper end of the mid-range, there's not a whole lot of weight to it. It doesn't feel cheap, but it also doesn't feel very premium either. I've actually seen plenty of phones that are much lower end than this that do feel a little higher end. I mean, this phone doesn't really have any metal parts. It's really just plastic all around, except for, of course, the glass display. Now, really, does this matter in the grand scheme of things? Probably not to most people, because after all, the main important part of any phone for that matter is really going to be functionality. And when it comes to features and performance, this phone is great, but at the same time, again, it just doesn't look or feel very premium. But in conclusion, Is the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G worth buying in 2022? I would say it absolutely is. Pretty much everything about this phone is at least decently impressive. It has a great display, really good quality, and a good size as well. A good amount of storage, great camera setup, security features like the fingerprint scanner in the display that looks really nice and premium, and face unlock to go along with that. It has a powerful processor that can handle pretty much anything you throw at it, regardless of the variant you get. It's got features like NFC, and to top it all off, a battery that's powerful enough to keep up with all this. So in general, if you're looking for a higher end phone that has pretty much every feature you could ask for, but don't quite want to spend the money on a flagship phone, then the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to be a great option. And I personally think that even after the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G comes out eventually at some point this year, this phone is still going to be a great option no matter what. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next video.